Do you know the difference between die and distribute and estate planning? Hi, Nancy Beauvair here with Agape and NEXsteps. Recently I heard a phrase, die and distribute. That sounds quite harsh, but here's the reality. If you think that estate planning is making sure that you have a will, what you're doing is just essentially signing up for die and distribute. So let's back up for just a minute here. In Canada, 50% of Canadians don't have a will. So if you do have a will, you're already in the 50% category of those who have done at least the start of an estate plan. But even among those of us who do have a will, there's a large percentage who haven't actually done estate planning. So here's the thing. If you just do a will outlines who's going to be your executor, who's going to take care of your kids, talks about how you're going to distribute your assets, or rather, how your assets are going to be distributed on your behalf after you have passed away, which is essentially die and distribute. There's been no planning done. There's been no planning done to mitigate taxes, to protect the family, to protect the assets, to protect your beneficiaries or heirs. And there has been absolutely nothing done to handle the potential of incapacity. There's a whole process as we go through life. And of course, we don't have the script. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know when we're going to die. We don't know how we're going to die. We don't know what's going to happen in between. But as we progress through life, we should be doing our planning to make sure that our loved ones are protected. And that means during our lives as well as after our death. So what that means is that we have to prepare for the potential of incapacity. If you end up in an accident or have a medical emergency that renders you unable to speak for yourself, and you haven't got that enduring power of attorney in place, and you haven't got that medical directive in place, that leaves your family, your loved ones, scrambling. How are your bills going to get paid when nobody has the legal authority to pay those on your behalf, which is what an enduring power of attorney provides for you? What happens if you're struck with a medical emergency or you're in an accident and you're in a coma and you can't speak for yourself and you don't have a medical directive? So your loved one can't express what your thoughts and your wishes are in that medical care that you're going to receive. Those three items together, your will, your enduring power of attorney, and your medical directive, are the three-legged stool. They're the foundation for your estate planning. Those are your estate planning essentials. So don't think that having a will is something that you should be really happy with because you've done that. Yes, be proud of yourself because you did that. But understand that you still have a long way to go to make sure that you have protected your interests, your family's interests, your loved ones' interests, and being prepared for potentially what could happen before you actually pass away. The other, there's a lot more to estate planning even than just those three documents. How do you undertake your estate planning to make sure that you are minimizing the amount of tax that's going to be paid on your estate? In Canada, we don't have estate taxes, but we do have in most jurisdictions what is known as a probate fee. And those probate fees can go anywhere from, in some cases, 0 to a fairly significant percentage of the estate. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up very quickly. And then you have to add in the fact that there's going to be legal costs. There's going to be costs for accounting. There's going to be tax returns that have to be filed that add to the accounting fees. So all of these fees add up, and they all take a bite out of what your beneficiaries are going to end up with at the end of the day. Now, CRA, everybody likes to hate them, but the reality is that they have structured certain things that can be beneficial when you're doing your estate planning when it's done properly. For instance, registered plans can be transferred to a spouse without there being the tax implication. That provides an immediate relief on that estate. But then what happens when the spouse passes away? You have to plan for that down the road as well, because those taxes will catch up at some point. So there are ways that you can structure your finances in such a way that you can minimize the tax hit. You've saved all this money, it's all in your RRSP, and then you could end up losing a minimum of 25% of it to taxes. And I'm sure that you don't want to do that if it can be avoided. There's charitable giving. The CRA encourages charitable giving. You can get a lot of benefit by structuring things properly to allow for charitable giving that minimizes the tax implications. There are things like taking out an insurance policy. So that passes outside of probate and it's not taxable. So you structure that life insurance policy pays out to the beneficiary, who then uses those funds to pay the taxes on the estate. There are a lot of different tools that you can use. So you need to make sure that you talk to a professional financial advisor who can give you sound counsel, who can help you structure that aspect, the financial aspect of your estate in such a way that your taxes are minimized. You might want to talk to an accountant or a tax lawyer about this kind of thing. What happens if you are a parent of a disabled child? You have to allow for that in your estate planning. There are structures that can be put into your estate, something called a Henson trust, that will allow assets to be put into this trust to care for this disabled child, who presumably will be a disabled adult when you pass away, but it ensures that they receive the assets that pass through this trust, so that doesn't impact their disability benefits that they are receiving. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Maybe you own a business. How do you transfer the shares of that business in the most tax efficient way? These are the kinds of things that we can explore. I'm a certified executor advisor. I help individuals and families identify these areas that they should go and get actual proper professional advice to help them create the best and most efficient and effective estate plan for now. And remember, it's not a one and done. Anytime there's a change in your life circumstances, you have to update your estate plan. So let me know if I can be of any help. In the meantime, thanks very much for joining me. Jump over to my website and read the article about it. Make sure that you're not just falling for the die and distribute concept of what is supposed to be estate planning. I appreciate you joining me today. If you find this useful, please share it with others. Look forward to talking to you next time. Bye for now.